way further from the truth. Minnesota probably loading the box, if I remember correctly, and trying to stop the run. And then, of course, forcing the Packers to be maybe a little more aggressive than you would want to be. Now, if we go to the box score here, let's kind of see the thing that I like to look at the most here, and I apologize for the ads. There's nothing we can really do about it, is the turnover differential. Let's start there. As you can see, Green Bay ends up losing the turnover differential 4-3. So when you look at the box score and you see that Jordan Love had almost 400 yards passing and Josh Jacobs struggled to run the ball, you think, all right, it's kind of on the running game. But when you look at the turnovers, there were 3 interceptions thrown in that game. So it's obvious the reason you lose that game, if you just turn the ball over one less time, you probably win that ball game. You don't lose by 2, right? So that's the big thing that sticks out to me there. Is there anything you guys want to look at statistically there in week 4? And again, it's not to harp on these losses. It's to kind of look back and go, okay, why did we lose that game? And I imagine by the time we get finished, you'll probably come up with a common theme. Go ahead, Jacob. I know this is your second favorite team in the league here with the Vikings, but
yeah, it's a tough one to look at. I remember watching this game and immediately just being frustrated. You look at that box score there, the 14-14. Going into halftime, I think it was pretty well. Most Packer fans were like me. We were kind of hanging our heads. We're thinking this team's going to get trounced, man. And then all of a sudden, sure enough, that fourth quarter where they come around and score 22, they make it a game. As you said, -1 turnover. I think the Packers have the momentum to probably pull away in this game. That rushing comparison there, the Packers didn't quite, run out of the barn with 86 yards compared to the Vikes 120. But and then the penalties, pretty even keel. I think this ties into with a segment we had just recently where we graded Jordan Love, and decision-making was a big one. Accuracy was a big one. And I was a little more critical than I wanted to be. I was a little more critical than Mr. Just no child left behind Emilio. He's passing everybody through. But I graded him a little bit harsher. And it's the decision-making. I think we see it right there in that game. That's a highlight of a game that we don't want to see, those bad decision panic mode. I think I saw Elijah saying Love's making bad decisions in panic mode. When he's on, but the panic mode is horrible, and I agree with that. I think it's not even necessarily panic mode. I think it's I got to do too much mode, because I don't see him as a guy that panics. I think the poise, as we've talked about, is there, and him not being over-emotional, him not losing his cool, whether it's for good or bad. I think it's more of just him not having – I don't think it's panic. I think it's more of just – forcing the ball, trying to make too much out of nothing.
Do too much, right?
Putting the world on your shoulders and saying, I got to do this with every throw. But what do you think, Emilio?
And I think schematically too, Emilio, and I'm sure you agree. When you think he's doing too much, it's like he's staying locked into those deeper targets long, and he's not getting to the check down on time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Because it develops, right? If he's waiting for that long bomb, it's going to take a minute to get out there, and you're asking the offensive line to hold it longer. You're not selling it as much. We're not running as much, many drawn out play fakes. So you're kind of sitting there knowing it's passed. They know they're in coverage, and the defense knows that they can get to you. And yeah, footwork, you're chasing all that down. I think, when Ryan was cutting up Matt's interview, you were kind of talking about that. Let's keep the footwork down. Jordan knows every bit of this offense. But yeah, there's always something that he can refine and get better at with that. My point was always going to be, until that gets cleaned up, the penalties. I think this was one of our lesser games, and we had 8 of them in the beginning of the season. So that's still a problem. And I know that, we didn't get into the numbers specifically here, but I'd love to see those third down numbers, and kind of see where we were at there. I think that was a lot of our issues there this past year as well.
Yeah. Deadfish in the chat says Jacob is not going to get a lot of carries when you're down 3 or 4 touchdowns. A great point, Deadfish. And if I remember correctly, we battled back too. And obviously it was one of those, like, I was happy with the way the team fought back at the end of the game as opposed to rolling over,
Not mad at the red zone though at 4 and 5. I mean, converting it is huge. We need to have the gold zone back again.
Gotta have it. Respect Orange says, and it was Love's first game after his injury. So that explains, it's not an excuse, but it probably explains a little bit, like, okay, not being able to step into those throws. You could see that plain as day, not being able to scramble, not being able to step into the throws. The way he would step throw and then hop back off of it real quick.
My knee.
That's exactly right. So there is the Minnesota focus there as well with the turnover. So let's move along now to Week 17 at Minnesota. You lose that game 27-25. All right, on the road in Minnesota. That was Week 17, December 29th. Jordan Love only 185 yards passing. Josh Jacobs 69 yards rushing. So it sounds like your offense really struggled here. I'm trying to figure out how we scored 25 points with those kind of numbers, but let's dive into it and see. Let's start with let's go to the box score first, and we'll go to the team statistics. Jordan Love, 19 of 30, 185 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. He was sacked 3 times, as opposed to Sam Darnold, who was sacked once. And Sam Darnold carved us up, 377 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, right? This might be one of those rare games where you win the turnover differential and lose the game just because the other team was moving the ball so darn much. Josh Jacobs, 17 carries for 69 yards. Romeo Dobbs was the leading receiver, 7 catches for 58 yards. Tucker Kraft had 2 catches for 53 yards. Jaden Reed was targeted 4 times. It's probably one of his worst games of the year. Targeted 4 times, only 1 catch for 6 yards. On defense, I'm trying to see if anybody flashed there. Carl Brooks had a sack. That was the only sack of the game. And in terms of interception,
Cooper, did you see Cooper's game? He had like 11 tackles, 4 for loss.
Yeah, 8 of them solo. Yeah. Cooper showed up to play, no doubt about it. Rashawn Gary, 2 tackles for a loss as well there. Those are the 2 that stick out the most probably. Interceptions, Carrington Valentine did have a pick, and he returned at 31 yards as well. So Carrington Valentine ended up in the stat column. Let's go to the team statistics and see what we got shaking here. Passing first downs, they beat us by 9, 20-11, right? Rushing first downs, it was tied at 4. Let's go to the turnover differential real quick. It looks like it was tied 1-1 as we lost the fumble and they threw an interception. So the turnover differential was even. And once again, you see them beating us in time of possession by 11. What sticks out to you guys here? Pretty even across the board with the penalties again. You're seeing an average of 7 penalties a game. You seeing that?
Yep, 7 penalties a game, still over in yardage. I don't think any of these losses we've had less penalties or less penalty yardage than the team we went against and lost to. It's not the only thing, but it's just one thing that you can clean up on your end to try to make your game, more streamlined, more to the point. Then again, you're giving up 11 minutes in possession. That's tough. It really is. And they were throwing the ball all over the yard, 43 attempts. That's a lot of coverage snaps. That's a lot of running up and down the field. Your defense is on there. And I mean, the fact that it was only 27-25, and they had the ball that often, hats off to the defense as we go back through this. They really did try to keep us in every one of these games. It's not like any of them were massive blowouts.
Yeah, it's an interesting stat line when you look at it. Like you said, the penalties are somewhat similar, turnovers similar, and then you look at the time of possession differential there. I would argue that maybe the sacks that we took, having 3 for 18 yards lost, doesn't maybe seem like a ton, but the situation and where those sacks were taken, I think could absolutely lead to being just catastrophic for being drive killers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to take a quick peek here and see if we there's the fumble. So Josh Jacobs fumbled. That was on the opening drive, guys.
Yeah, that's rough.
That's huge.
How many opening drive fumbles did we have? Keyshawn, this one. Not like it was a lot, but it just turns the game up on its head.
Right. I'm you know what I'm looking for here, guys. You know how I feel about this. I'm looking for first down sacks because they tick me off, dude. There's got to be one in here somewhere, right? Here's a first down penalty. Of course, that was on the defense. Never mind on that. Just glancing here.
Is that the turnover on downs? Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, Brandon McManus field goal is good there. So, the turnover on downs. Let's see here. Short, middle. No. Where's the sacks at? I haven't seen one sack yet. I know we didn't look at every drive, so maybe they weren't as much of a factor as I would think they would be.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing one here yet. Here's a punt. Jacobs, J Love scrambles for 6 yards, 3rd and 1. Illegal formation. That hurts, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. That was illegal formation, or was that on the defense?
No, it had to have been on offense. If it was an illegal formation.
It had to be on Green Bay, right? I didn't say who
Green
was
Bay.
on.
Yeah.
And then 3rd and 5 incomplete, so no, nothing there. I mean, as I'm looking at it here, the sacks are what stick out to me, even though we haven't found exactly when they happen. That's a big number, like you said, Jacob, having given up 3 sacks. But the big thing that sticks out is that fumble on the opening drive. Am I wrong there? Am I wrong? That kind of sets the tone for the game, right?
Each of our losses feel like a big fumble has occurred so far. Or, I mean, at least the past couple we've looked at. It's a big fumble that changed the tide, and then early was the 3 picks from Jordan changed the tide.
Yeah, no doubt. Here we go. There's a sack.
Sack.
Yeah, and that was on 3rd and 13 at their own 38. So that one I can handle. I mean, what's the chances you converting on 3rd and 13? It might have been one of those things like, okay, do you throw a pick and give them great field position, or do you just take the sack? We'd have to watch the play, go to the tape, obviously. That one I don't think is as bad of a situation.
Jordan, there's another sack there. Second.
Look at this right here. Josh Jacobs, right tackle for 19 yards, touchdown nullified by a penalty. Sean Ryan Holden.
Oh my God!
That's an explosive play and a touchdown, and that's the difference in your ball game there. So what we're seeing now is the
Josh Jacobs fighting back after a fumble, and Sean Ryan taking it under.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put Jacobs fumble, and then I'm gonna put Ryan. Hold on touchdown.
Man, that's brutal. That's where Matt just wants to snap the clipboard in half over his knee. Like, are you freaking kidding me?
And here's the thing, like, why does that happen to us? I mean, you're seeing a theme here: interception, pick 6, Watson fumble, Jacobs fumble, Sean Ryan hold. That sounds like the youngest team in the league, boys. That's what it sounds like to me. And whether you want to, make the argument Watson's not a rookie, nobody's saying he is. Josh Jacobs is one of the veterans on the team. It's true. But when you think of what's the negative to a young team, you got to think mistakes and mental errors, right? Like, it's kind of what comes to mind. So I think we got to the bottom of that one. Wouldn't you agree? The Jacobs fumble on the opening drive, and then the Sean Ryan hold that's nullified the touchdown. So moving along now to the wild card game against Philadelphia. Let's see what went wrong there.